Hi there and welcome. My name is Barb Drozdowicz and I serve as a technical trainer to authors. In this video, we're going to talk about the new WordPress 5.0 release. It's also known as Bebo, and in the development stage, they called it Gutenberg. So this is the latest version of WordPress that we're going to be using to operate our websites. There was a lot of fear-mongering before this release was actually released, and in actual fact, it got to the point where I was kind of concerned that it was going to break sites. I was started buying into the fear-mongering. I've converted a couple of handfuls of sites now with a wide variety of themes, and I don't really see it having any negative effects whatsoever. However, I'm still hearing a lot of complaints about what it's done to the post-edit screen. And so that's going to be the main focus of this video. And we're going to talk about some of what I consider to be really cool functionality that WordPress has brought in to our ability to create really unique blog posts for our readers. So what you're looking at here is the dashboard. This is where you log into when you log into your WordPress site. Over on the left-hand side, if you hover over posts or click on posts to open the space up, you can either click on add new here or up here. So we're going to add a new blog post and talk about how to do it. This is your new post edit screen. It's very minimalistic. It's very different than what you have been seeing for many years on the previous WordPress versions. So what this is doing is either consciously or unconsciously buying into what science tells us about how people read on electronic sources, be they phones or tablets or ebooks or blog posts. People tend to scan when they're on an electronic source. They don't read top to bottom, left to right like we do on paperback books. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blog post that sort of panders to this kind of reading behavior. In addition to that, we're going to very easily add in a bunch of different functions that used to be quite a pain in the butt, honestly, on the older version of WordPress. Either we needed multiple plugins to do it easily, or we needed to know how to code. Most of the authors that I work with don't code and don't have any interest in coding. So this is a huge advantage, I think. So anyways, let's look at what we have, do a little orientation. Upper left, we have a plus button, some arrows, a bunch of other icons. We'll come back to them. Over on the right-hand side, if you look through the grayed area, you'll see preview and publish and a gear for settings. And we will come back to this area as well. There's nothing to preview or publish. We haven't added any content here. Down the right-hand side, we have other information. So you'll see the headings of document and block. WordPress now allows us to do certain functions that are appropriate on the document level and certain functions that are applicable on the block level. And you'll understand as I go through this. So let's start creating a blog post. Every blog post starts with a title. So oops, can't spell. Let's enter that. And you'll notice as soon as I started typing it, the block or the title has this narrow blue rectangle around it. Every block that we create will have the same sort of feature, so I'll keep pointing them out. Typically, once we create a title for a blog post, we enter text. So you'll see down here it says start writing or type / to choose a block. So we're going to do the simple thing, click, paste some text in, and that's my equivalent of typing. You'll notice as soon as I did that, over on the right-hand side, we have information appear under the label of block. We'll come back to that information. But what we have here is some fake text. So just like we could in the old version of WordPress, we can highlight text, we can click on B for bold, I for italic, we can insert a hyperlink, we can do a bunch of other things, center it, etc. As soon as I click off of the block, this menu up here will disappear like this. But if I hover, you'll see that it has this little label up here of paragraph. So it's reminding me of what type of block this is. So what other types of blocks can we add? If you look to the upper left, there's a plus. I'm going to click on it, and it's fairly long with choices. These are the preset blocks that WordPress allows us to use. And it's quite extensive. We've already played with the paragraph block. We're going to play with some of the rest of these. But just to give you another orientation, you'll see it says most used here. This will personalize for you as you use or as you create blog posts. It'll keep the ones that you're commonly used in the upper section so they're easy to find. This has been personalized for me as I've been playing with it. Further down, we have common blocks, formatting, layout elements, widgets, embeds, and reusable. We'll go through all of those one at a time. So we're just going to do some simple things. Typically, after you put a block of post in, or a block of text in your post, we put a picture in. So if I click on image, this looks familiar to what you had before. You can upload an image from your computer. You can click on media library, click on the picture, click on select, and in it goes. This is really no different. You'll notice that the little menu up above is the same as what you saw in the previous version of WordPress. We can center the picture, we can left justify it, we can click on the pencil to edit it. And again, over on the right hand side is information with respect to that picture, different than paragraph, which was our previous block. So if I click off the block and then hover, it has an outline around it and it has the little label of image because that's what we did. Let's go up to the left, click on add block. The next thing that we're going to talk about is gallery. So I'm going to click on this. A gallery of pictures, generally speaking, people struggle with pictures. They don't appear where you want them to appear. They struggle to size them. They struggle to do all sorts of things. In galleries, I get a lot of questions on. So this gallery function is really kind of nice. If I can either upload pictures from my computer or choose them from the media library, just like in the previous thing. I'm just going to choose some from the media library, and I'm going to say I want this one, this one, this one, and maybe this one. Then click on create a new gallery. It shows me my 4 pictures. I can caption them. I can click on an X and get rid of them, or click on insert gallery, and there we are. It has created a gallery that shows a nice arrangement of the 4 pictures. And we'll see when we look at the live version that the gallery actually really does look like this, regardless of what kind of device you look at your blog post on. Let's go back up to the left, click on add block, and we're going to look at heading. Heading is like a subhead. All right, so it's a line of text that's, in this case, sitting in the middle of a blog post. So I can do a bunch of things. I can highlight it and bold it and center it and do a bunch of other things. Choose the heading text that I want to use. And that is simply all it is. It is a line of text that's sitting in the middle of your blog post, which is what a subhead is. Click on the button, the plus button again, and let's look at adding a block quote. A block quote functionality, you'll recognize this little double quote. It's something that's existed in WordPress for years. So we can type whatever we want. We can offer a citation for the quote, and like the other text areas, we can bold the text and link it and do a whole bunch of other things. The other quote functionality that they have that used to be awkward to do is a pull quote. So a pull quote is a quote or a line of text that is isolated from the rest of the text and can have other functionality associated with it, and we'll see. So it's got space top and bottom. It's meant to be kind of isolated. And I'm just going to throw in another paragraph block so that we can look at this live. So I'm going to go up to the right, click on Save Draft, and then I'm going to click on Preview, and we're going to look at what this looks like. So this is the front side of this test site. So if you remember, I had a paragraph block, I had a picture, I had a gallery, which looks kind of nice, had a block quote, a pull quote, so you'll see that this really is isolated top and bottom, and another text block. So this is how easy it is to throw your blog posts into place. Let's go back to the back side, and we're going to play with some of the other functionality. So underneath this block of text, I'm going to put something else. So we're going to go up to the plus, and I have some things here that we're going to use, but we're going to go through what the possibilities are. So under common blocks, they are just that: text, gallery, heading, image, quote, etc. Lists, putting lists in is really nice now. Formatting, not necessarily something that you would use commonly, but it is function that is awkward to use. This is where you'll find the pull quote function. If you want to put code in, you can do it this way. Tables, again, something that's really nasty to put into WordPress unless you're really comfortable with code. It makes it easy in the new version. Under layout elements, we have things like buttons and separators and columns. Media plus text, or media and text, which is a picture with text beside it. Again, we're back to making pictures behave and getting the text to do what we want it to do. Widgets, you can put a variety of widgets in the center of your blog post. So for example, if you want to add a list of categories or add a list of latest posts, this is how easy it is to do it. Embeds, we can embed a whole bunch of different things within the body of our blog posts, and you can see that this list is quite extensive, and we're going to play with a couple of those. We're going to put a video in place from YouTube. You'll notice when I click on that, it brings up a very simple screen. It wants the URL of the YouTube video and a button. So I have Wham preloaded because it's one of my favorite videos. I copy the URL, I paste it, I click on embed, and there you go. Wham is embedded in the middle of our blog post. Click off of that, and let's look at the Twitter one as another example. So I'm going to click on Twitter, and I'm just going to enter my Twitter handle. So you'll notice you enter the whole thing, including the HTTP. Click on embed, and magically my Twitter stream is embedded in the middle of the blog post. Now, why you would actually do this in reality, I'm not so sure. However, it is kind of interesting if you're trying to illustrate something. Again, this used to be something that was really awkward to do, and this new version of WordPress makes it really quite easy. So the other thing that we're going to do is we are going to put an image in place, and I'm just going to put this in as the image, and then we're going to look at the button. So one of the functions that exists is button. So let's say this was a book cover. I could enter the direct Amazon URL and click here. And then when I click off of it, I have a clickable button. So now that we've gone through and played with a bunch of the choices, we're going to look at the functionality over on the right hand side that's available for all these blocks. So let's start at the top. This is a text block. So over on the text, or over on the right hand side, we have some other functionality. So we can, for example, change the font for the entire block. So we're not just changing the font size for some of the font, we're changing the whole block. We can, play with color settings. One of the things that was awkward in the old version of WordPress, unless you had a plugin or you were good with coding, was to change the background color of a block of text, so to highlight it. Or to change the text color was easier because that was a normal functionality, but to change the background color was a bit awkward. To add, for example, a drop cap, as you can see, again, very awkward on the old version of WordPress. So let's click on Save Draft and click on what it looks like. So it is that easy to create a highlighted block with a drop cap on the new version of WordPress. Let's go back and we'll click on Image, and you'll see over here on the right hand side we can add alt text. We can change the image size to one of the presets. We can change the image dimensions by the numbers, by percentage. We can link to a specific URL. Again, back to the idea of linking a picture to Amazon and make it a clickable picture. The pictures in a gallery, let me move this down a little bit so we see the whole gallery. You can change the columns. So you'll see it's defaulted to 3. I can change the columns to 2 and make it a grid of pictures. I can crop the images or not crop the images. And I can link the gallery to a file, to an attachment page, etc. So again, if I click on Save Draft and look at what this looks like, you'll see instead of having the 3 upper pictures and 1 lower picture, I have a grid of 4. So it is really that easy to create a nice looking gallery where the pictures will stay in place. Likewise, we can click on the various boxes, look over here on the right hand side and see the type of functionality that is available. The quote, we can change the background, we can change the text color, etc. On the YouTube video, it's going to start playing now. Let me stop that. We can resize it for smaller devices, etc. So all of these blocks that we put in place, we can do a variety of different things, right? We can center a button, we can change the text, we can change the style, we can make it a rounded button or an outlined button or a squared off button, etc. So the last thing that we'll point out is what's called a reusable block. If I go down to the bottom, reusable is a block that we will use over and over and over again. So most blog posts have a sign off or a signature at the bottom that says, thank you for reading, subscribe to my blog, sign up to my mailing list, a variety of other different things. Most people forget to put this in place. So what this new version of WordPress allows you to do is to create a reusable block and then save it. And putting it in place at the end of the blog post is as easy as adding another block. It makes it a lot more of a normal kind of behavior. So let's click off of this and look over at what's available on the right hand side. To start with, we looked at the preview button, but we also have a publish button. So if I click on publish, it will then confirm it, right? So do we want it to be public or do we want it to be one of the other choices that has always existed on WordPress? Publish immediately Or do we want to schedule it? Do we want to add tags? We'll do that in a second. So if I click on publish, it will go ahead and whir a little bit, and then it'll tell me that it's published, it's now live. This is the direct link. So if I go back and get this off, I'm going to go to posts, and we're going to look at one of the draft ones so that we can see some of the other functionality. So in addition to publishing, we can fuss with the permalink, which is something we've been able to do in the past. We can add categories, right? We can add any categories we want. And again, similar to what we had on the old version of WordPress. Same with tags. We can add new tags in the same fashion. Featured image is something that you can do, helps the blog post be shared properly on other different platforms like Facebook. We can also rate an excerpt, and rating an excerpt is a great way of forcing Facebook to post what you want it to post. So hopefully this helps in your understanding of all of the various functionality of the new version of WordPress. I hope that you play a little bit and come to understand some of the power that you now have when creating blog posts.